It is 6 o'clock. I'm Barbara Hartley, Mayor of Urbana, and I'm calling this meeting to order. Thank you all for being here. And I'm just going to jump right into the summary of the purpose of this meeting, so everything is clear as we get started. Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. We're gathering for more information regarding the proposed pumping station at 215 Linden Avenue. We appreciate all of the views on this subject and thank you for participating in this process. First, we will hear from Jeremiah Burford of HRSD, assisted by Eddie Abasab. Did I get that right? There you go. These two gentlemen are here to present what they hope to accomplish here and give you your chance. So we will be hearing from them, and we respectfully request that they be allowed to speak without interruption. After they have spoken, council and staff will have an opportunity to comment and ask questions of the HRSD representatives. We will do this in such a manner as to maximize the information gathered in a brief period of time. The final portion of this meeting will be the public comments and questions, period. Speakers will be called to the podium in the order in which they signed up. Speakers not present when they are called on will forfeit their turn. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes and will be alerted when 10 seconds remain. At the end of the allotted time, the speaker will be gavelled out. Any questions asked by the speaker will be addressed by the appropriate responder at the completion of the speaker's time. This is a subject that many are passionate about, and we respect your right to be heard. Due to time constraints, this meeting must end by 7 p.m. so that council can conduct its regularly scheduled work session. We thank you all in advance for your cooperation and look forward to a productive hour. Thank you. All right, at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jeremiah Burford and Mr. Eddie Abasab from the HRSB. Thank you so much, gentlemen. The podium is over here. Did you need to stand over there? Where's the clicker?
It's behind the monitor.
Okay.
On the other end.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Town Council, for giving HRSD the opportunity to discuss the HRSD upcoming project. The upcoming project for HRSD is our CIP number MP013730, Middlesex Interceptor Systems Program, Phase 2, Transmission Force Main. But before I get into the actual project, I would like to give a little background on HRSD and HRSD's service areas. Currently, HRSD has 20 cities, counties, and towns that we serve at this time, with over 5,000 square miles, with a population of 1.7 million that we serve currently. We operate a total of 9 major treatment plants and 8 smaller treatment plants with a combined capacity of 249 million gallons per day. And one of the biggest things that we take away as an HRSD is our mission and our vision. We protect a public health and the waters of Hampton Roads by treating wastewater effectively. In our vision, future generations will inherit clean waterways and be able to keep them clean for future. Fast facts for HRSD. I apologize for this slide. It did not adjust correctly, but HRSD is a political subdivision of the Commonwealth of Virginia. The governing body is appointed by a commission which the governor who is appointed by a commission or appoints the commissioners. More than 500 miles of pipe, 3 inches to 66 inches in diameter, and HRSD operates more than 100 pump stations. Brief diagram of a wastewater pump station. This is a schematic of just to illustrate. This isn't what's going to be presented for the Urbana pump station that's proposed. The gravity will leave your house. The flow will leave your house and get into a collection system, the service area. Then it's going to head down that gravity system into a pump station wet well, and there's a wet side and a dry side. The dry side has the pumps and the pumps to pump it out of the dry well into the force main, and then continue down. Similar cycle, goes gravity and goes back into a pump station and back to force. And then all the way to the York River Treatment Plant is the idea for this Urbana pump station, which is approximately 30 miles from our current location, a straight line, or about 46 miles of force main. And with this, we have an odor control system that's being planned and designed for our pump station, along with a generator. But the current project that we have is our MP013730, the Middlesex Interceptor System Program Phase 2 Interceptor Force Main. The top left, you'll see that we have Urbana on the left image, going all the way down Urbana Road, across General Puller Highway, Twig Ferry Road, down and connecting to our Matthews Transmission Force Main on the bottom right of that page. This is approximately a 17-mile force main going from Urbana to Matthews. And with that, inside this program, we're looking to decommission 2 of our treatment plants, the Urbana treatment plant that offloads about 6,000 treated wastewater daily, and then our Central Middlesex treatment plant that discharges approximately 10,000 gallons per day of treated wastewater. Both those will be decommissioned after this project is completed. Now I want to talk about the town of Urbana and its existing infrastructure that we have. There are currently 9 pump stations active in Urbana at this time. We are also the treatment plant that was mentioned previous on the other slide. Just so everybody's aware that there's approximately 6 that are in residential areas, 3 that are in general use areas. Now, for the pump station in question that we're looking to construct, we are looking to demolish and remove our existing Bonner Street pump station that's on the bottom right or the bottom of the right slide. And the top left is our Taper Lane pump station that we're looking to demolish as well after the new pump station's installed. The new pump station that location is proposed at 215 Linden Street. The existing pump stations are Bonner Street, 300 feet away from the proposed pump station, and Taper Lane is approximately 320 feet. Now, HRSD takes our architecture serious. Over the last 5 to 10 years that we have updated our idea of what a pump station should look like. So on the top left is our Lucas Creek pump station that's going to be in Newport News, Virginia. That station is in design right now, but this is a rendering of what we are predicting the station to look like with some minor modifications throughout the design process. The top right is our Matthews pump station. This is a rendering of the pump station that was not built. The one that ended up being built was similar size, but it was a industrial look that was selected by the county of Matthews. But we wanted to make sure we illustrated what the residential looking pump stations look like. The bottom pump station is our proposed Willard Avenue pump station. That's in Hampton, Virginia. That's in design currently and looking to be built over the next few years. And then we have our Bridge Street pump station that was built in Hampton along our marina in the Marina District in Hampton. HRSD will continue to engage the public as more information is available and will be providing an open house in the near future as a rendering is completed and we have more information to provide. We encourage the public to continue to reach out to HRSD and give us your feedback during these open house and meetings because we want to make sure that our pump stations fit into the character of the neighborhoods. They don't drive by and you say, what was that? You don't know what it is. That's the idea that we've been taking over the last 5 to 10 years with redesigning our architectural standards to first go off of our site design, then going off of our building design to make sure that they fit in and blend into the neighborhood is our number one goal with our new pump stations that we're putting in. And this concludes my slide, and I'm willing to answer any questions that anyone would have.
There we go. Thank you very much. Okay, at this point, it's time for the council to ask questions or make comments to our gentleman from HRSD. And I will start out with one question. I understand that this pump station is supposed to replace a number of other pump stations in the town, and which would those be?
That is correct. This pump station will be replacing the Bonner Street pump station and the Taper Lane pump station, along with the treatment plant that this will be serving as a collection to send out.
And what will become of the pump station over on Rappahannock?
Rappahannock is not in the scope of work.
Okay, thank you. Ladies, gentlemen?
What happens to the property values of the residents that live in that area?
Over the course of the last couple of years, we have not noticed a adjustment or change to anybody's property values with new pump stations that have been installed over the last 5 to.
Well, you don't have a comparable when you put that pump station there. There's no more bedroom, no more bathroom, no more nothing. So that has to have some type of effect on the property value if someone is going to sell for finding a comparable in a certain range at Bay Area.
Not quite sure. Are you talking about appraisal value without having a secondary?
Yeah, you're not going to have anything to compare. That property is now not a comparable anymore if someone here wants to sell that property. So that's going to decrease the value of that property.
We haven't noticed anything with those because examples of the pump station that we do have is Willard Avenue, and we have not had a chance to or even notice a difference from any of those at this time.
Have you purchased the property?
We're in the process of acquiring the property.
Normally when you,
Turn on your.
you do this, I guess you're just like a buyer, and you can go in and purchase a property without speaking to the town or anybody else. Is that, from what I've been told, our code doesn't do anything to prevent you all from being there. I'm not sure whether we want you there or not, but it just looks like to me, everybody else, anytime I do anything, I have to go before every board from here to China. And it just seemed to me that it seems to me that you all should have contacted the town in the beginning so that we could have at least checked with our code, even though Roy says that it has no impact, that you all can do what you want. I would have liked for our town attorney to at least check into that. And also, if that's the case, I think this council needs to do something about that. We may not be able to do anything to affect this, but it's just common courtesy. I mean, I know an individual buyer doesn't have to do that, but it's a little different with a sewage treatment type situation going in versus a everyday buyer. You know what I mean?
We did consult with the town numerous times to make sure, because there was the Taper Park area that we were evaluating to see if we could put a pump station in that location. It just didn't work out at the time, and then we were also went over to the Oyster Festival property that at the time it just did not work out and fit into our needs, and then we had to go find a different location that would fit our needs.
Yeah, you did. I mean, it was 100 by 100, I think, what you wanted to take the park, and that was more than felt that we could give up.
And we actually reduced it from our standard of 150 by 150 for a pump station to try to help out try to make it work with the town. And unfortunately, we just couldn't come to an agreement to make it work.
Is this lot 150 by 150?
That's in our standards.
I mean, is the lot you're getting 150 by 150?
Yes,
It is.
it works for what we need.
It works for what you need.
Jeremiah? Right
No.
here. I, for one, am glad that the sewage treatment plant is being shut down. From what I understand, it's 100,000 gallons a day, not 60,000 gallons a day. Now, it may vary from day to day, but that's what they're permitted for. The reason I am for shutting that down is that it's pumping more phosphorus and nitrogen into the creek than they're permitted to by pollution credits. And I'm all for shutting that down, to clean this creek up, because part of our tourist industry here comes by boat, and we want them to come. Now, that being said, the problem I had with this is the way HRSD went about it, because we did talk about the Taper Park, we talked about the Oyster Festival Foundation part. Even the Oyster Festival Foundation offered you a 99-year lease for that portion of the property back there, but HRSD went into radio silence, and the next thing we know is you're buying 215 Linden Avenue. And to me, that is where I had the problem, is there was no communication from HRSD. And it got a lot of people upset. And they shouldn't have been upset like that if the communication lines were left open, and they weren't. And I'd fault HRSD for that.
There may have been less concern if people had seen this or something thereof beforehand, I think is what Bill's saying. I agree with that.
Did you want to speak? Yeah, I'm wondering if you can tell us about the safety records of, for instance, the pump stations that you displayed on the previous slide. What is the rate of incidence of leakage or problems? Again, I'm trying to respond to the questions that people have. Oh, what if it leaks? What if there's damage? How is that going to impact that neighborhood? So can you tell us about the kind of the safety record that you have with these pump stations in residential areas?
Within residential areas, we do constant PMs on our force mains, gravity sewer lines, to verify that everything is in a good condition at the time. There's always going to be failures in general, but in residential, we respond to any of these issues in a rapid manner. We have protocols in place to make sure that we respond to all these incidents if they are to come up in a timely manner.
What's inside that house? I mean, it's not it looks like a house on the outside, but
What-
it's not rooms and things like that on the inside.
Are you talking about these?
Yeah.
There's going to have so I'm going to go back to this slide here, where we'll give a better illustration of the pump station. It's going to look like the outside. It's going to look like a house. But the inside is going to have a electrical room, potentially, a motor room to house the pump equipment and motor equipment, if needed. It's going to have potentially the generator indoors to reduce the sound, to make sure that we maintain the 70 decibels at 50 feet. And then odor control as well would be most likely in that building to make sure that it's contained and not noticed by the public.
Are you exempt from real estate taxes?
I am not sure on that, so I apologize.
So are these houses, are they soundproof?
No, for the generator, we do a decibel reading, and we do spec out a decibel rating for our generators. The one that I just showed you at Matthews was rated at 68 decibels at 50 feet, and that generator is very quiet. It's sound continuing around the generators which you purchase to reduce the sound. So it's just something that has to be spec'd out and abide by our standards.
How often do the generators come on?
That's my question.
Is it a once a month test? Typically, that's what I've understood it to be.
I want to say it's once a month, but it might be twice a month for 2 hours, but I can't, I'd have to
2
confirm
hours
that.
at a time?
I want to say that's what it is, but I'm going to have to confirm that and get back to you on it.
Thank you.
So otherwise, it's powered by electricity.
Yes.
All right. In the interest of maintaining time, looks like Garth Wheeler had something to say, and then we need to open it up for our guests to speak, because we need to finish this up by 7 o'clock, and we've got 10 speakers signed up. Garth, did you have something to say?
Yeah, and I'll try to speak loud, but I don't typically have a problem with that. Can you describe a little bit, go into more detail right along with Larry's question about the comparison between the, let's say, the pump house at the pool and this pump house, and how they're gonna be different in regards to, and you were touching on it a little bit about the sound, but also about the odor. A lot of these folks, I think that's what their concern is, that, you know, and from what I understand, this is an entirely different animal than the old pump stations.
So the old pump stations were built 30, 40, 50 years ago under old standards. As we develop over time, we update our standards. These pump stations were inherited to HRSD through the town of Urbana. We've been maintaining them for the last 20 plus years. We understand that these stations need to be upgraded, and that's our goal, is to upgrade them to increase the odor control that we have in these stations, to make sure that they are bearable and there's no odor that's going to be present while we walk around these stations. Again, it all goes back to the look of the stations on the outside. We want to make sure that they are appealing to the public, make sure that it's not a detour from the neighborhood. It needs to blend in. That's our biggest concern with these stations.
Thank you very much. All right, are you timing this, Martha, or do you want me to time it?
I'll try it.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
In answer to Larry's concern about not having to do anything more, they cannot build anything until they get a building permit from the county. Before they get a building permit from the county, they've got to get a zoning permit from the town. Before they get a zoning permit from the town, they have to submit an application for a zoning permit to the town. That will include all sorts of drawings that this thing is within the parameters of our setbacks and things like that. They haven't done that, they don't own apparently they don't own the property yet, so I don't know where they are in this process. But this is not just a walk in the park. It said in the newspaper that they weren't gonna be required to get any permits. That's just wrong. I never said that they didn't have to get any permits. I said that this was, I believe, in my opinion, that a pumping station of this nature was an allowable use within a residential district. I didn't say where it was gonna be. I didn't say it was gonna be a 215 or anything like that. I was never asked that question. So I get questions all the time from people about what they can do. Telephone questions. Can I put a shed up here? Can I build a pool? Can I do lots of things? I have lots of people who ask me questions on a daily basis. It is hardly a formal opinion on any of these stuff. It's just an observation on what was going on. I was asked if I thought they could put a pumping station that was a utility or a sewer within. I looked at the code. The way I read the code, I thought they were all right. And until I hear somebody tell me that I'm wrong, that's position I'm gonna take. And the council can tell me I'm wrong, the courts can tell me I'm wrong, my boss can tell me I'm wrong. But, that's just my observation of what's going on. You gotta start someplace, and that's what we did. It may have taken our HRSD a while to get to us, but they kinda got to us. And when they heard that I thought they probably could do what they wanted to do in a residential area, they went on from there. I have to agree with Bill, and I said that to them and their council. You better do a better PR job than you're doing, because you got people riled up. And the reason they're here is this town, through the council, asked them to be here so you could, as citizens, could hear what they have to say. We have not been asleep at the switch.
Thank you, Roy.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, now we're going to move into the public comment period, and ask when you take the podium or stand up if you will speak loudly and need to take the podium? Okay. Give your name, your address, and then just go on in because you only have a few minutes. Okay, so we're starting with Ann Woodard.
Your microphone, honey.
Okay. I am Ann Barefoot Woodard. I own two duplexes in Urbana, one at 321 and 325 Cross Street, and the other is located at 220 and 226 Linden Avenue, which is across the street from the proposed pumping station. I have been addressing this issue since the middle of June, when I was made aware by a tenant that HRSD was purchasing a house on Linden Avenue. A tenant, not the town administrator, not the zoning administrator, not town council, not the town attorney, not the planning commission, nor HRSD informed me about this. I have a series of questions which I would like answered. When were the town administrator, the zoning administrator, the town council, the planning commission made aware of the situation? Why were the surrounding property owners not informed? Roy Keim told me in July that he had a letter from Conway Shield, attorney for HRSD, stating that the house would not be torn down. Now HRSD is stating otherwise. Mr. Keim sent a letter to my attorney stating that he was only obligated to share his decision with the landowner. Mr. Keim, what is the basis for this opinion? Why did the town administrator not know that the house would be torn down? Mr. Wheeler initially told me that the house would not be torn down. Is this the only location that is appropriate for the station? What about the 99-year lease on the property owned by the Urbana Oyster Festival Foundation? Why has the new town attorney, Andrea Arard, not responded to my attorney? Why has she not responded to phone calls from other property owners? What is Ms. Arard's opinion on this issue? When did HRSD decide to purchase the house? Why did they not notify anyone? When is the closing date? What is the minimum size needed for the new pumping station? Is this the kind of behavior expected from a public utility, putting a business structure in the middle of a residential neighborhood? Why is it not feasible to put the pumping station next to the existing station in Tabor Park? Would it not be possible for the town to lease property from the Urbana Oyster Festival Foundation, thereby expounding Tabor Park to allow for all of the things that the town would like to provide for its citizens? How can it be justified to install a pumping station and tear down a home in a residential neighborhood? Would you, members of town council and employees of Urbana, want this pumping station next to your home?
10 seconds.
How would you like it? This is absolutely unconscionable. Madam Mayor Hartley, with your permission, I have copies. Also, I have, Alana Courtney could not be here tonight. I have an email from her.
She has to be here to give her time to you.
Okay, okay.
Pardon me?
Would one of you read Alana's email out so it can be in the public? Since she, since she,
accept it into the record without having to read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give it to the clerk.
Yeah.
okay,
Thank
okay,
you.
okay. And may I pass copies of what I've just said to you all?
Yes, you may. So, there you go. All right. That's quite a number of questions. Some of them have been addressed and some of them have not. So, thank you very much. Our next person is James Ward.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Councilman. My name is Jimmy Ward. I represent Mrs. Woodard, and I understand I will be representing some other individuals. Yes, they do have to get a zoning permit, but I contend that Mr. Keim has taken a position that it's a by right. It's not anything. Back in the July 8th meeting of this council, Councilman Hallberg asked if the change of use would require a special use permit. He was told no, that it was a by right. So that's by right you can do it. You don't have to have any conditions to it. So I sent a letter to Mr. Keim on July 30th by email. I got a letter back from him stating that he couldn't give me the information. I've not heard from Andrea. She's been busy, I realize that. However, I take the position that regardless, this property, at the way it's zoned, is not permitted under your ordinance. If you look at section 17-4.2.1, the residential district, it does have number 4 that says facilities, structures, and rights-of-ways necessary for rendering public utility service, including poles, wires, transformers, telephone booths, and the like for electrical distribution or communication service, and underground pipelines or conduits for electrical, gas, sewer, or water service. Never in there do you hear the word sewage pumping stations. These types of things are underground utilities, transformers on top of the property, but it's nothing said in here about sewage pumping stations. Where do you find sewage pumping stations? Look under general commercial, 17-4.6.1, then 17-4.6.3. It's a special use in a commercial zone. Number 7 states public utilities or public service or transportation uses buildings, including bus stations, generating, purification or treatment plants, water storage plants, pumping or regulatory stations, telephone exchange substations, and major transmission lines. That's in a business section, business use district by a special use permit. You read it, separate it, public utilities such as a pumping or regulatory station. Yes, they have to get a zoning permit, but there are no conditions on a zoning permit like a special use permit, and I take the position that under your ordinance, it's not allowed in a residential section. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker will be Elizabeth Faudree. Thank you very much. Okay, then we move to Walter Bareford.
I'm not going to step over there. There's no need for that. I've never been told that anybody couldn't hear me from any distance. How you do? I'm Anthony Bareford. I'm speaking for my father, Walter, and my mother, Janet. We own the home at 211 Linden, which is right next door to this. I have some questions, but are they going to be answered, or I'm just going to ask them?
Go ahead and answer them. We'll ask them. We'll try to answer them before we leave.
To the gentleman who gave the seminar, do you have a design plan for a boundary? And if so, how come we didn't see that? What's it gonna look like? You got Matthews and Newton News and everywhere else. What's theirs gonna look like?
Go ahead and answer. Well, wait till he's finished. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. The other thing I wanna know is, I was here at the last meeting, and, it was mentioned that the old Urbana lumber site was considered. And sometimes
but you're under time.
I don't wanna get too far ahead of myself, like I said, I'm a little slow and I might not be able to remember
Well,
what
you
I've
need to
had.
make your statements.
Okay, that's, and I'd like to know why that didn't go through, because that would have been an area that doesn't seem like it would have been intrusive on anyone's homes. And I'd like to know who specifically made the decision not to put it there. Specifically. That's it.
Thank you. Good questions. All right, Dan, I hope someone is ready to answer these when we finish hearing all these questions. Alana, Courtney is not here, is that right? Thank you. So the email will go into the record, and we have all seen it. Tammy Putney.
Good evening, Town Council. I'm Tammy Putney. I own the residence across the road, in Linden Avenue, directly across from the proposed site. I'm with Mr. Bafford over there. We've seen residences, pictures of everywhere else. Nobody seems to know what they're going to do here. I did take a ride over last night to Matthews, and I'm thinking it's in Dutton area on Route 14. There's a pumping station there, and I'm assuming by the drawings I see here, that's probably where our stuff is going to end up going and move on down the pike. It's a big metal building with a fence around it and a lot of don't trespass, stay away. It looks like a microbrewery. I'm certainly hoping we're not going to get something like that over on Linden Avenue. That's what I'm saying. I did hear there was a generator on site. It's about the size of my pickup truck. That was pretty visible. I didn't hear a lot of noise, but it was a lot of road traffic because it was right there off of Route 14. So, with that being said, I just wanted that to be said, that I looked at that site. Hopefully that it will look, if this gets passed, it will look like something like that, not what they have over there on Route 14. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wayne Mount? No? Thank you. All right, Danny Vire.
Good evening, Town Council. I'm Danny Byers, 221 Linden Avenue, right next to it. I've seen the Matthews pump station. It looks nothing like that proposed. What they say there, it's an odor reducing. I have a hard time believing that they're actually going to eliminate all odors. Me and my family do gardens. What's to stop this from lurching into our vegetables? I just feel like everything has been undermined and nothing has been straightforward with all this. This may be an unrelated situation, but Miss Utility has lines marked all over the place around the place. So it seems like things are being progressed and no information is being forthright. So I could be wrong on that, but I just have to point out what I see. And the neighbors have not been there for a while. So, but thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Let me see, does this say Sandra Good? Sarah, sorry, Sarah.
I also live at 221, right next to the proposed station. Is it proposed? I don't really feel like it's being very proposed. I think it feels like it's really happening. My questions are a lot of what Danny had to say. You know, what does this do to our environmental areas outside? I have been on the HRSD website. I have seen all the awards they have won for all of their environmental things they do. That's great. But I'm going to be about 50 feet away from this, and I think that it's pretty rotten. I really do. I think there has to be a better place for this. I think that Yeah, I think there's definitely a better spot. I think somebody's gonna have to give something up that they don't want to. That's it.
Thank you. Gary Lister? No, thank you. All right, so that is everyone who signed up to ask questions. There are a lot of questions to be answered. And I will go first to the gentleman of HRSD.
I'm gonna take this on, give Jeremiah a break here, so
Sure.
good evening, everybody. Again, I'm Eddie Abisalo with HRSD. Just going through the list of questions, I was trying to jot down as many questions as I could while everybody gave their comments. First of all, we truly appreciate the feedback. We hear you and we listen to you. This is not the first pump station we build in a residential neighborhood, and it won't be the last, because this is a needed facility for all of us. HRSD, again, prides itself on taking care of the environment, making sure that the wastewater, sanitary sewer services are provided to all of us. That's what we really pride ourselves on. So, with that said, I know there was a couple of questions from town council and from the residents, one related to safety. So there's a reason why we're replacing these old pump stations with new ones, right? Because the old pump stations pretty much reached its end of its useful life. There's a lot of issues with maintaining them and operating them safely and efficiently, and that's the reason why we're building a new pump station. So the likelihood of having any safety or failure-related issues on new pump stations is fairly minimal, to say the least. I'm not gonna say it never happens, never say never, but we don't foresee that as being an issue from a safety standpoint. The noise issue, the only noise issue that everybody kind of was concerned about is the generator. This is an emergency generator. It only operates so it could be tested monthly, just to make sure that if we ever lose power on this pump station, the pump station is going to be operating without really any loss of service. The noise issue is very well defined in our design and construction standards. For any engineers in the room, it's 70 decibels at 50 feet. And that's essentially a vacuum, would say, Jeremiah, vacuum cleaner, at about 50 feet. That's what you would hear. And yes, they do get tested once a month. And it is a 2-hour test. The odor control issues, we do have odor control systems on every single pump station that we own. Obviously, the new technologies that we have on the newer pump stations that you saw, some of which have already been constructed, some of which are going into construction. But essentially, if you're standing in the pump station or right outside the pump station, you're not going to smell anything. That's how efficient these new odor control systems operate. Permitting. Just want to kind of follow up on Mr. Kams's comment on permitting. Obviously, we have not submitted for any permit yet. We will not do that until we're sure where we're going to build the pump station, right? You got to have the site first before you submit the permit. So we have not gone through that process yet, but we will. I had jotted just a general comment here. Again, appreciative of every single comment that we're hearing tonight. We really are. But then again, just keep in mind that this facility is to improve the facilities that we currently have. Again, and we're going to improve it not just for us, but for everybody in here. So just keep that in mind. There was a comment, I think, from Mrs. Woodard about, I'm going to answer some of your questions. Obviously, the questions that are not related to HRSD, I'm going to let somebody else answer those. There was a question about the house being torn down or not being torn down. We were evaluating several different locations for this pump station. Jeremiah mentioned that we looked at Tabor Park, and we worked with the town on that to kind of see where we can site it on Tabor Park. And we did not really find a best location that both parties can agree to. With that, we moved on to look at the Oyster Foundation or Oyster Festival Foundation property. There was issues with that property related to subdivision or subdividing the property. They would not sell us a certain parcel of it, and they said that they can offer a lease, a 99-year lease. I'm not an attorney, so I can't really speak to the real estate legal world, but it just was not something agreeable for HRSD. So we started looking at other properties, and there was a question that I would answer now is why this location? Why not somewhere else? If you all kind of saw what Jeremiah was pointing out to, is this location, the new location, is about 300 feet away from 2 existing pump stations. And there is also a gravity sewer system that runs on Linden Street and a gravity sewer system that runs on Bonner Street. So we really need something in that area. We can't be, 2 blocks away or in a different section or a different neighborhood and be able to serve this section efficiently. And then again, well, let me rephrase that. We can, but we'll end up spending millions of dollars to do that. And that's not good for HRSD, it's not good for the ratepayers, and it wouldn't really help us with being good stewards of ratepayer money. The house, the house being torn down, there was several properties that we evaluated on Linden Avenue, and one of the properties was big enough that did not require the house to be torn down, but that was not the property that we had presented here for you today, which is the 215 property. There was a lot of questions about when did HRSD approach the town about this. It's been a while ago. I'm not really sure exactly when that happened, but we have been in constant contact with the town representatives. Again, there was a question about, is it justified or is it not justified to have it in a residential neighborhood? All of us as residents have wastewater that needs to leave the house. And somehow we have to collect that, convey that, and send it to a treatment plant. In some cases, we have to stick to a certain location in order for us to be able to do that. Again, efficiently, cost effectively. Let's see, Mr. Ward had a couple comments about the code. I will let the code officials answer those. Is it Mr. Basford? Barford. Sorry, thank you. There was a couple of questions about the design. We haven't really developed the design well enough that we can present to you or the town because, again, we're looking at purchasing the property, so we're not going to go ahead and develop a design until we know exactly where we're going to build it. There are certain requirements that have to do with the codes, certain setbacks that we have to go by. We have to be a certain distance away from our next door neighbor and then from the street and so on and so forth. So that kind of constrained us with what we can build and what we cannot build. You had a question about the Urbana lumber site. I really don't have an answer to that. I'm not sure. Do you have an answer to that, Jeremiah?
If it's talking about the existing treatment plant, we evaluated multiple properties, and this was the one that gave the most benefit to HRSD and the residents.
Somebody, Mr. Putney, is it? I'm sorry. Sir, you had a question about, you don't want it to look like a microbrewery, and totally understand that. And you also had a question about noise. I believe I addressed the noise issue. The microbrewery, again, we talked about several different types of architectural designs that we've been implementing for the last 10 years now. And that architectural design, the way we do it is we develop a rendering, and then we present it to the town, and then we have an open house. And we invite all the residents to the open house, and we present that to the town and get feedback on what they would like to see and not like to see. And that includes the color scheme of the house, that includes just the general look, and then the town will give us some direction about, again, the size, the setbacks, the square footage requirements, and the height requirements. And that's all really a collaborative effort between HRSD and the town or the city or the county that we're building in and the residents. And that's always been our policy, and that's not going to change. And there was, I'm sorry, was it Vines or Vanes? Vires. Okay, sorry about that. Sorry, I was writing real quick. Sir, you had a question about, you had a vegetable garden, and there was probably some concerns there. Really, that goes back to the safety question. So these pump stations, as you see, they're built underground with concrete walls that have been waterproofed from inside and outside. We have not really had any leaks on the new pump stations. Now, if you tell me there's a pump station that's been in the ground for 50, 60 years, yes, I could probably agree with you. If you do a water quality test, you know, a few 100 feet away, you may find something that you don't want to find. However, that's the reason why we're changing some of these old pump stations, come up with new ones. I don't really see any issues with that. We do a multitude of testing on the pump station before it actually gets activated, which includes leakage testing, which includes, you know, power testing, which includes HVAC testing, and all the safety features that you can think of that we're obligated to have in that pump station will have. And then you also had a question, sir, about the utility markings. Yes, I mean, as we mentioned, we're going through the property acquisition process, so that's probably why you saw the utility markings outside the 215 Linden. And Miss Sarah? Yes, and ma'am, you had a question about, you know, you have 50 feet away. We've built these pump stations. The only one I can think of recently is in Virginia Beach, and it's 15 feet away from the existing house. It's a small station. I wish we had a picture of it. But we are building these pump stations in a lot of residential neighborhoods. It's not because we want to, it's because we are forced to, based on how we can, again, efficiently, cost-effectively serve the neighborhood and serve the community. I hope I answered most of the questions. I know, again, there were some questions that are not really HRSD specific, but I'll be happy to answer any other questions from Town Council, Madam Mayor, or anybody else that would like. May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't feel as if the questions regarding, up on the hill near the old, building company has really been answered. You said you kind of looked into it, it just didn't work for either side. Give us more specifics.
Jeremiah, you want to come up here?
The property by the lumber yard that you're referring to, I am not exactly sure where that is, but I am aware that we looked at several properties that were by the Urbana treatment plant to start with. We found that the Urbana treatment plant sites would have to install an additional pump station outside of what we're looking at now. So we said if we can eliminate two pump stations and build one pump station in its place and remove a treatment plant instead of building two new pump stations and upgrading an existing pump station, it was more cost effective for the town and HRSD to look at the options that was more cost effective and work with our ratepayers.
Danny?
I'm just wondering who benefits mostly from this cost effectiveness?
Our ratepayers.
He's talking about your bill. Danny, did you have something else?
Yeah, what about light pollution, like security lighting, how about, security alarms? Are there trucks gonna be coming in and out all the time? I mean, I already have one security light next to my house, I don't need one right on the other side of the road.
No, so that light, you know, the lighting obviously, again, gets, that goes into the design of the pump station. I don't see, you know, the security lighting would not be something that's on the whole time. It's usually on, you know, it's sensor-based. Whoever somebody walks in front of it, it's gonna come on. Trucks coming in and out, again, the only time trucks will come in is to do preventive maintenance. It could be, you know, once a month for the generator. It could be once a month for the pumps. But typically, you know, there's a lot of things that we do nowadays with automation where people can see if there's something wrong with this pump station from, you know, the operations center in Newport News. So there's a schedule for the preventive maintenance, and that schedule will be followed, but it's not gonna be, you know, you're not gonna have trucks coming in and out every day.
Thank you. Gentleman in the back, we're gonna,
Yes, the sewage coming from that page, where does that go now?
The current sewage coming from Bethpage, which is the campground, if I'm correct, is coming to the Urbana treatment plant.
Okay, when that's shut down, where is it gonna go from there?
When the campground shut down or the Urbana treatment plant?
The amount of treatment shut down. And also Port Town. Now, I know all that sewage is coming in town. Is that gonna come to this pumping station? Are we gonna treat their stuff and pump it, or is it gonna be intercepted before it ever comes to town?
It's going to be intercepted, and we're still currently going through the design, so I don't have specifics on it, but it will be intercepted and sent to our York River treatment plant.
Okay. And also, you say that Bonner Street is gravity fed. I'm at the end of Bonner, and during several storms, raw sewage is coming out of the cover plate, and from the property down that Ms. Chandler owns, it goes to Perkins Creek. And that is an issue. Can you explain that?
I mean, as far as are you talking about the overflows from the Bonner Street pump station?
It's a regular storm drain, it has the two holes that y'all put your pinch bar in to take the cover off.
Okay.
And during numerous storms, when I guess we get a lot of rain, whether it's sump pumps or whether it's storm drains falling into the sewage system, it has nowhere to go. So do you all have a backup for that to catch that, or is raw sewage gonna continue to go out of Bonner Street at the dead end and down into Perkins Creek?
Yeah, so the current pump station is a small pump station, right? It's underground. We actually had a picture of it here, but I'm not sure why it did not show up in the presentation. And it has a very small capacity. So the new pump station is actually gonna have a bigger capacity and to avoid any potential sanitary sewer overflows.
Okay, and that now, why is it coming out of that drain? Why is there not a stoppage for that?
Good questions. Good question for operations. I wish I had an answer for you. I'm not going to give you an answer if I don't have one. All I can say is there's a capacity issue.
That running through your front yard?
I would not, but again, there's some concerns with the capacity of that existing pump station. And of course, everything inside of it is old, and it's reached its useful life, and that's why we're replacing it. So hopefully we're not going to have these issues. That's the plan.
I will video next time.
Thank you, sir.
Please send that video to the town hall, and we will contact them and see what we can do.
I mean, it needs to be a solid plate, it needs to be a backup, a pump, or something there to even now, until you all get approval and passage of this, something needs to be done with that. And to me, gravity flows the other way, but this is coming all the way back up the hill. I'm at the end of the line.
Thank you.
Water.
All right, yes, sir. We're running out of time.
We're running out of time, and also, this is a current issue. This isn't
That's
up for
not this.
discussion right here.
Mhm.
That's not their job.
Thank you. All right, we are coming up on 7 o'clock now. I know not all the questions have been answered, but they've all been aired. And some of them will take a little bit of time to answer because, like the design of the building, it hasn't happened yet. We will try to put together any questions from the town that we can answer. And I hope that you feel a little bit better at the process. As I will remind you, the town was surprised at this as well as you, and if we hadn't been, we would have told you. Do you have anything else from our staff to add?
The only thing that I'd like to add is we're trying to play catch-up. We were behind the 8 ball, so we're trying to play catch-up and have y'all informed. So that's why they're here this evening. So we're being transparent and y'all can get the answers, and that we're gonna have them back as we progress. So, I mean, I hope y'all understand that.
Okay. With that, I'm gonna close this meeting. Thank you very much for coming. If any of you are here for the town council work session and want to speak for the comment